Suddenly, the district superhero priest issued a task instructing the parasite beasts to take out that guy. At that moment, Xiumin's keychain accidentally dropped on the ground, clearly due to his nerves. The next second, the priest's eyes locked onto him like a radar, and Xiumin immediately acted nonchalant while quickly leaving. Then he zoomed off to find his cousin in trouble. The hometown duo instantly turned to run, but who knew a parasite would suddenly spread its wings? Will his cousin escape in the Xiumin chase? At this point, they are already in brothers. They rushed into the car to escape, but didn't expect the parasite in the sky to show up too. The next second, it slammed down on the roof and poof. The entire roof disappeared as if it was edited out. Xiumin was suddenly possessed by Heidi, who attacked the man. While fighting, the vehicle lost balance and plummeted down a cliff like a roller coaster. At this very moment, Xiumin was involved in an intense showdown with the man. Suddenly, the man asked, "Aren't we of the same kind? Why are you stopping me?" Just as he realized he had to report this, Heidi struck out. Subtitles. The man was instantly pierced through, and Heidi gently murmured, "Sorry, your box meal has arrived." Heidi lost control and fell, while his cousin, upon waking and seeing the cliff, felt weak in the knees. Upon seeing his brother's state, the cousin reacted, tried to climb out but accidentally fell. Who expected him to hang mid-air? Fortunately, Xiumin woke up, took over, and rushed to rescue upon hearing his cousin's cries. But as a human, he really had no idea how to help. At that moment, the captain of the grey team responsible for hunting parasites, Jundin, also noticed Xiumin's troubles. A mysterious smile crept across his lips, as if he had everything under control. The next day, Xiumin and his partner made a bold move. They called Sheriff Old White, who'd watched him closely. They hurriedly reported the Mountau parasite. Charlie gave the meeting place and its traits. Then his cousin hung up. "You start." "I've reported." "Who are you?" Old White was stunned. Out of caution, Old White relayed this bizarre lead to Captain Jundin, who unexpectedly inquired about Xiumin. Subtitles. Records indicate Old White took Xiumin's case in childhood and now, but he said, "I tested Xiumin's hair yesterday, no parasite." However, Jundin sharply sensed Old White's bias against Xiumin. Old White told Jundin about the parasite call he just got, and Jundin received a report from subordinates then. The leads pointed to the same location as well, prompting Jundin to order the grey team to spring into action and head to Mountau. Upon arrival, they launched drones, finding no life inside quieter than a movie's intro. The parasites they'd considered hounds didn't show any reactions either, leaving Jundin even more puzzled. They entered a warehouse-like building with barren pillars. Suddenly, they found a pile of covered objects, revealing discarded human limbs. Clearly, the parasites had mopped up most of humanity. When they explored the church, they found a strange symbol. Old White glanced down and shockingly found a familiar keychain. He hurriedly picked it up and realized it was the very one he had given to Xiumin. But right at that very moment, Jundin caught sight of this scene, and Old White promptly pretended to be innocent. However, Jundin clearly sensed something amiss. Preliminary analysis showed at least 500 people died from parasites, and the church was registered under Pasakon Heji. This pastor and his family had vanished half a month ago. On the second day of this blank chase, Sheriff Old White's deputy quietly arrived at the secluded spot. He opened the door only to find several parasites inside. Nobody expected that this officer had become an insider for the parasites. Xiumin contacted his sheriff uncle, intending to tell it all. But as Sheriff Old White prepared to act, Jundin, in charge of catching parasites, noticed. Old White asked Xiumin if he still had the keychain, but Xiumin awkwardly replied that it was lost in the parasite church. At that moment, a loud rumble echoed in Xiumin's head. It was the special signal indicating the presence of parasitekin. Realizing the danger, Xiumin urgently pulled Old White to escape, but Old White questioned, "Are you really Xiumin?" Meanwhile, Jundin, who was preparing to eliminate the parasites, sensed the presence of nearby parasitic life forms. Upon hearing the alarm, he immediately realized the parasites were close by and alerted the grey team to rush over. He quickly drew his gun and, the next second, rushed to Xiumin's side just as the cousin launched a surprise attack, pulling Xiumin to. Jundin raised his gun, but the main force had arrived, immediately surrounding the area. At that moment, Old White's deputy mysteriously stayed behind. He walked to the trunk, oddly put on a feather-like cloak, while the hunted Xiumin and his cousin prepared their escape plans. Xiumin fought Junjin as his cousin stole a car to flee. At this moment, Xiumin nimbly darted around an abandoned amusement park, as if rehearsing for a play, quickly making Junjin furious. Heide's consciousness suddenly took over, and after landing a hit, he chose not to linger, attempting to flee. But the very next second, he found himself surrounded, and the situation turned extremely dire. At this moment, Xiumin was cornered, while Junjin marched toward him with gritted teeth. The grey team steadily closed. Times Earl, the cousin, escaped using his agility, but outside, he sensed trouble. Old White's deputy, Xiumin, retrieved a strange knife-like object from the car. He then opened the door of the man who was held captive as a hunting dog and swiftly pulled him out. The cousin just happened to witness this scene. In an instant, the hunting dog sent a distress signal at a critical moment, which was oddly connected to the remote in Junjin's hand. Junjin left some words before swiftly departing, but at that moment, Heide's consciousness suddenly faded, causing Xiumin to faint. The hunting dog was finally taken care of by Xiumin, who kept mumbling even after finishing the job. At that moment, he tossed the clothes and the weapon into his trunk and turned to leave. Just then, Junjin arrived in fury, saw the dead hound, enraged, though her husband was revived by the parasite. However, his husband's body still existed. As the parasite lost his husband, the real him finally perished. At this moment, Old White saw the unconscious Xiumin and rushed over to save him, disregarding everyone's gaze. He shouted for someone to call an ambulance, but the crowds, agitated by Xiumin's presence, criticized Old White for needing to leave immediately. "I am not human, but a parasite." In a critical moment, Junjin returned with a special torture hood, completely ignoring Old White's wrath. It felt like you wouldn't want to miss a thrilling scene. Don't forget to click subscribe.